Hey everyone, welcome to week 4 in which we are going to begin our immersion experience together. I hope you're as excited about it as I am. It's coming up quick. So in this video I want to highlight a few pieces of the immersion experience itself as you're preparing, and then set you up for the little bit of work that we will do during this week before we take off, those of us who are leaving from Southern California on Friday, and gather all of us on Saturday just outside of Pagosa Springs, Colorado. With respect to this upcoming immersion experience, the first thing that I want you to remember is that all of your questions or concerns about it are welcome. So as you're packing, as things spring to your mind, worries that you have, please don't hesitate to post something in the general questions forum or to call me. My cell phone is on the syllabus, on Canvas, etc. And I want to make sure that you have every resource that we can muster to be able to arrive feeling as prepared as you can be for this. I've been in pretty constant contact with the base camp. We've been thinking about different parts of the route that we're planning, some of the challenges that we're likely to face, not least because of the fire danger and dryness due to the drought and general desertification of the southwestern United States that includes the Weminuche Wilderness, where we'll be doing our backpacking. But it looks to me like we are in for a good experience, so I hope that you're looking forward to it. When we arrive on Saturday together, we will have a little bit of time to get settled, and then we'll have a meal. And at that meal, I'm going to invite us to introduce ourselves to one another in person, since some of us only know one another digitally up to this point. And besides asking you to say a little bit about what your hopes and fears for our immersion experience are, I'm also going to ask you to share something from the second half, preferably, but I suppose any part of the book that we've been reading last week and this week, Trace, Memory, History, Race, and the American Landscape by Lorette Savoy. So we'll be reading the second half of the book for this week, and I think one of the best parts about this class is that the conversations that we've begun to have online are going to have the opportunity to sort of come to fuller expression in person, whether it's on the road trip on the way there for some of us, or certainly when we're together at the base camp and then on the trail in the wilderness together. So I'm going to invite you to just perhaps read a portion of the book, so please bring it with you, just a passage that sort of stuck with you, and sort of get our conversation going there around the dinner table. I'm especially interested, now that we're into the second week of reading this book, and again we'll be doing some biblical study as well, this time in Romans chapter 8, but particularly interested in how we're going to receive theologically the content of this book. I think that it's fair to say that Lorette Savoy is not totally out of tune with all kinds of theological concerns and questions that we have as Christians. And what I want to do in our second week of reading the book and finishing it and then talking about it together is to begin to make explicit some of the theological ways in which we're making sense of what we're learning from this book and from one another as we digest it together. You're not going to have any required post this week. My sense is that you've got your hands full just preparing for the trip and traveling. So no required post. There will be an optional forum you'll see there on Canvas in case you'd like to have any conversation about the second half of the book. But mostly what I'm anticipating is our commenting on this book when we're together in southern Colorado. Of course, we'll also have some time to reflect on the other readings that we have done, and we're going to have 3, I think, at this point, guest speakers from different backgrounds addressing us and giving us some fodder for our own discussion. Those are going to come in the first couple days that we are at the base camp, and then we're going to have more extended time as a class when we come back from the wilderness, debrief our experience, and begin to digest together some of what we will have learned by that point in the course, having trekked through the wilderness together a few days. I trust you were struck by the elaborate preparations that went into Israel's beginning its journey through the wilderness. According to the book of Numbers, there's an entire social order that is being developed that has, in a sense, the priesthood of the Levites at the heart of it, all kinds of guidelines and rules for how the community is going to be able to hang together, deal with disputes in the dangerous intimacy of life together, trekking through the wilderness, which of course proves to end in a terrible failure for the people of Israel when they reach the land that God has taken them to, only to give up on their trust in God to deliver them according to God's promises to that land that they had been moving towards. I hope that our experience will end better, but we're going to have some similar concerns to attend to. Some preparations those first few days, thinking a little bit about how we're going to need to work together as a team. We're going to have 2 guides with us that are provided by the outfitter, Noah and Greta, and they are going to be leading us in some ways. They're more familiar with the terrain than I am, have some training that I don't, and so really all of us, each of us, is going to bring different gifts in the same way that generations past the people of God have, and we will be learning together how to support each other with the gifts that we've been given so that we can move through the wilderness in a way that enriches our life together, our learning, and of course what we're going to take with us into the future when we come out of the wilderness. Make sure that you bring a journal that is on your what to bring list. I also would probably encourage you to bring a small Bible, something that's light, since it would have to fit in your backpack. But we're going to have plenty of time for reflection, sometimes in the middle of a hike while we're on the trail, other times before we've broken camp or when we arrive somewhere to settle for an evening. I haven't planned for our hikes during the day while we're on the trail with backpacks to be super long. Some of them will be more demanding than others, but often we'll have plenty of time to enjoy the places that we're going to be spending the night. And so there will be time for us to enjoy the quiet and the particular sounds of the wilderness, and that might include some reading for you. It will certainly include some writing in your journals that you should bring. Please do take everything on on the what to bring list seriously, and if as you're beginning to put things together, as I've said, you develop questions or concerns, don't hesitate to raise those, and we'll try to address them. I think what I would say is most important, and I've told this to some of you on the phone, is that you have good socks. There are probably relatively few things you would have to buy to put what's on that what to bring list together, but having good socks that can handle moisture would be one of the most important things. And of course, I hope that you have good, adequate footwear. As you'll see on that list, you don't have to have some super expensive set of hiking boots or something. What you definitely need, though, are well worn-in shoes that are fit for the trail. And if you're not familiar with shoe wear, you know, your average tennis shoes or even running shoes are not always the best for uneven, rocky terrain that has a lot of moisture. So put some thought into that. Make sure you've got good trail-ready shoes that are well worn in to use on the trip. One last thing that I think is probably worth mentioning before I close here is some of you, perhaps all of us in some measure, although maybe not because of where some of us are living, are going to experience probably some altitude sickness. And part of the reason for scheduling a couple days or more at the base camp before heading into the even higher country onto the trail is to give all of us some time to adjust. But you will want to bring with you perhaps some ibuprofen, something of that kind to help take the edge off of any slight headache, maybe even some nausea that you experience in those first couple days, and of course to take it with you on the hike as well when we hit the trail, so that should you begin to experience symptoms of that kind, you've got something to address it with. The key way to minimize the effects of altitude sickness, in my experience, is not only to have a period of adjustment, but to drink lots of water. And so make sure you're hydrating yourself well, even as you're traveling and getting settled at the base camp, because drinking a lot of water, even though it means you're going to be peeing constantly, is going to help your body breathe better and adjust to the altitude. So I think that's all I have for this intro video. Please enjoy the rest of the book, Trace by Laurette Savoy. I think you'll find that the second half may prove in some ways even more unsettling and stimulating than the first half has. Really appreciate the conversation that we're already having online. Again, it'll be optional for you to continue that, but I am certain that we're going to have a lot to discuss about that and plenty of other matters that we've touched on when we are together starting the end of this week in Colorado. So you guys have a good week, and I look forward to seeing your faces on Friday or Saturday and to hearing your voices on my phone if you have any concerns that arise between now and then. God bless you as you prepare.